Modern video games are like movies.
Give me your hand!
Except this happens all the time and I'm asked to do a bunch of stupid stuff like catching chickens before I can watch the next 2 minutes of the movie before it all happens again.
Try catching 10 of those chickens.
What? Again?
When a new medium gets invented, it's natural to take inspiration and build upon what worked in already existing mediums. Movies have been around for about 100 years now, drawing a lot of inspiration from books, which have been around for even longer, probably 200 years or so. And going from books to movies is a pretty natural step. Both are passive forms of entertainment. You sit and you watch, or read, but with no real influence of the outcome. Video games, however, are an active form of entertainment and completely changes the game. So the usual trick of just recycling content in the most blatantly obvious way no longer works. I don't think it's a secret at this point that literally every single game based on a movie sucks. On the other hand, games like The Last of Us 2 are obviously amazing pieces of work, stunning visuals, incredible story elements, music, animation, 1 out of 10. After playing through the game, I can't find a single reason why this wasn't just a movie or TV series instead of a game. As Alfred Hitchcock famously stated, drama is life, but the dull bits cut out. You know, like in situations when you need to go pick up your backpack.
You need to get your backpack.
You cut the walking bit out.
I hid it by the east gates.
Yeah, well, in video games, we call that bit gameplay. There are moments when The Last of Us gets exciting, but even then, it's ruined by the fact that if I die, I just respawn, but 5 minutes ago, and I have to do all the same thing over again, infinitely. The stakes are so low. The only thing at stake is my time being wasted. The gameplay is mundane, and at some point I found myself just getting annoyed when a cutscene ended, and now I have to spend another 10-15 minutes running around just to get to the next cutscene. Now, you might be tricked into thinking that the solution to blending interactivity and story is by giving the player options to choose what happens in the game.
What does she want to see me for?
I don't know. You'll have to ask her yourself.
Heavy Rain famously demonstrated what a terrible idea this is, so don't be fooled. This idea is a red herring. Having multiple endings in a game just leads everybody thinking the same thing. Well, which one is the true ending? Remember when you were watching Avengers 26 last year and the Hulk asks King Kong to marry him right at the end? Well, imagine if this happens. What? What is this? If you get to decide how the movie ends, it completely ruins the illusion that this actually happened. And the same thing applies to games! The solution is obviously to ban all story from video games forever. The end, bye-bye. Story has no place in video games. Or does it? You might be surprised at this point to hear me say that narrative is the foundation of all good video games. But what? Ponty, you just said shh! Listen to this, because this is where it gets interesting. Books are stories told through words. Movies are stories told through images. Video games are stories told through cutscenes. Oh. Wrong. Video games are stories told through gameplay. But what does that mean? Okay, check this out. I just made this game. It's called Square Avoider. You're a square, but you have to avoid squares. It's not very fun. So how do you sell this piece of garbage? By doing this. And this is pretty much the same thing. It's just a fancy version. The step between this and this is actually not that far. Left and right to steer and X to jump. See? Same thing. What sets them apart though is the narrative. Video games are all about presenting challenges to the player, and the narrative is what motivates the player to want to actually overcome those challenges. Pressing a button in itself isn't very satisfying or fun, but when you put context, aka narrative, around pressing this button, it's all of a sudden very fun. This has absolutely zero correlation to what it's actually like riding a snowboard. Trust me, but your mind fills in the blanks. Your imagination takes over, and all of a sudden you buy into the idea that you are actually the person riding this snowboard down the hill at 300 miles an hour or whatever that is. Until you realize you're playing an Ubisoft game and the microtransaction store pops up every 2 seconds. The narrative is what allows the player to become part of the game, so someone who maybe doesn't like snowboarding isn't maybe gonna enjoy this experience, but if they're into racing, then maybe they will, even though it's pretty much the exact same thing. We need to identify with the narrative to feel a desire to overcome the challenge presented by the game. And no, the desire to see the next stupid cutscene should not act as motivation for pushing stupid boxes around for no reason. So let's take a look at some good examples of narrative in video games. Outer Wilds, where the solution is right there in front of you, but first you have to explore, learn about this world, and piece by piece figure out its mysteries until you're finally ready to unveil the truth. With 0 cutscenes. The Witness, where you're dropped on an island without any explanation and just these panels to solve, leaving you desperately searching for higher purpose, eventually wondering if you're playing the game or if the game is playing you. Counter-Strike, with its... Wait, what? Counter-Strike has a story? Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Look at this and tell me what you see. An FPS shooter. Why is this such a powerful image though? We don't see a face, we don't know who we are. All we know is we're looking through the eyes of someone holding a gun. And then you move your mouse and holy shit! I am the guy holding a gun! Now finally my dream of shooting people in the face with no real repercussions because I hate people can finally come true! All of a sudden you stop questioning what the face of the man holding the gun looks like because it's you, the player. You're the one holding the gun. We've now truly torn down the fourth wall and have created what's known to man as immersion. We are now part of the narrative of this game. Who am I gonna shoot next? Huh? You? Now, online multiplayer shooters are not for everyone, but this is a genre where choice actually matters. Will you beat the opposing team or not? Your actions actually have real outcome here. It's not made up. The other team won. You lost. Sure, it's just a video game, but it's still real. You lost or won. The moment you start involving multiple endings and branching narratives, the player immediately wonders what the real storyline is. When presented with different difficulty options, you immediately ask which is the real difficulty. And when I do the wrong thing, like, dying, and you make me start over, then why did you give me the option to die in the first place? And this is why my favorite game is Abzu, which delicately balances 0 gameplay with absolutely no story at all.